Okay, this is a video that I'm doing because I've been asked many times by people. It's probably the most asked question that I've ever gotten in the past 2.5 years. HeadFi, YouTube, people on Facebook. It's just again and again. Some people are very comfortable with EQing, other people are less so. It's the same as like making custom cables or something. If you've done it a lot, it's no big deal. If you really haven't, then it's not something you want to get too into because you don't want to mess stuff up. EQ is the same way. You spend a lot of money on something you don't want to. You want to enhance it, but you don't want to get away from what you paid a bunch of money into, because essentially you're listening to something different than what you bought, and you did that yourself. So a lot of people just think, okay, I don't want to deal with this. However, they want to get the best that they can out of the gear that they bought. So let me say, first of all, with EQing, the least or the less you do of it, the better. EQing introduces a higher chance of distortion in the frequency, which usually exists in the sub-bass. But when you're EQing and you're raising the amount of energy that goes into certain frequencies, you're increasing the ability of running into distortion that you wouldn't hear really, but it's going to affect the quality of the sound and the range that you've been boosting up. So it's not something that you want to do too much. And I'm a bass head, so I'm used to throwing up massive ski slopes on the left side. So I know what the distortion is, and I put up with it in certain genres, but this is not for that. This is for general people, and also including myself now, because I've gone balanced, and I'm using the EX1000s as my main IEM still, because they're peerless in my opinion. But get off of that. There's something on the internet that's been around for quite a while, and it's called the Interactive Frequency Chart, and it's used by and cited by many people when they're talking about mixing, mastering, and a number of things. Now, what you're looking at right here is a EQ that is designed for a person that has an IEM, which is EX1000, that is generally very clear. It's got good treble already. Some people think it's got too much. Mine do not have that issue at all. I'm treble sensitive. They sound fine. So you got a set of IEMs that sound really nice, but you'd like to give it, you'd like the bass guitar to come up more. You'd like the bass and the drums to sound better. You'd like that techno mix to be a little more prominent without interrupting the mids or other things. I'm speaking to you. So listen. The bass guitar has two basic acoustic sections. The first section is the beginning, and it runs from approximately 25 to 30 up to 300 hertz, and that is called the fundamentals. That is the fundamental acoustic range of the bass guitar. Following the fundamental range and picking up at approximately 350, there's what we call the harmonics, the harmonic stage. So you've got the bass guitar, which runs from about 30 to 6K. That's how far the bass guitar actually goes. Parts of the bass guitar's upper note will dissolve all the way up at 6,000. So it's not something that it's a bass guitar, but it's not limited to the bass region of the EQ. And within, so you've got the fundamentals. You've got the harmonics. So if you imagine them on a line, I'd say that the fundamentals run to, they actually do, to right about here. And then the harmonics run to about here. I don't go all the way to the end of that, but that would be the range. So most of the range that you're looking at on this EQ that goes up to, I think, 16, it goes to 20, can be touched by the bass guitar. Now you've got three sections inside of the two sections. Now remember, fundamentals, which is the main part of the bass sound. Again, 30 to 300, 350 roughly, which would be this entire zone. And then you've got the harmonics, 350 to 6K. And then within these two, you've got bottom, which is here, and you've got attack, which is here, and then you've got notes, which is here. This is actually what it's called. The bottom would be basically considered the sub-bass. This would be the bottom region that the bass guitar will effectively touch in an audible, clear way, not in a resonant way, but in a clear way. Anything beyond, that's why it doesn't say 20 in the fundament, it says 30. Things might disappear into the 20 where people can not hear any longer, but generally the bass guitar goes to about 30. Now this would be the bottom, and I've elevated this, and I'm using let me make sure I get into this so that you guys follow me correctly. I got the equalizer. I'm not using any DSPs at all, and I'm using the 20 band parametric, not the graphic, the parametric. Now the bottom is the low shelf, and it's got a frequency of 40 is where I've got this set at. It sounds very, very good on everything that I own, not just the EX1000. That is a good point right there. The gain, 5.7. Now this is adjustable to the user. The warning is that the higher that you go with the gain in this region, the more that you're going to create what already is distortion. Every driver's maximum distortion range is usually in the sub-bass. The more that you increase this, the more that you're going to increase the distortion in that region. And if your goal is to get good mids and clear treble, the more that you do here, the less results that you're going to get down there. So this is something you've got to adjust. The good thing about this is if you listen to rock and roll, it can be right here. If you listen to hip hop, you don't touch anything, you just increase the gain slightly, so you can move this up and down. I got it at 5, 7, 8. If I was listening to hip hop, I might pull it up to about 9. I'll put it back to where it was, about 5.2. There we go. So this would be the range depending on which genre I'm listening to, how I would adjust it. And again, that's called the bottom. Now I've got 2 other points in here, and these are dependent on your IEM or over ears. The way that a driver is tuned is unique. There's a lot of rebranded drivers. So for example, 57 millimeters on the over ears, there's like really one source in the world for those, and they all use the same driver. There's lots of stuff, American Audio, the JVCs, but if you take the driver out and look at it, it's the same driver. You would EQ that in a certain way. IEMs are different too. They're open, they're closed. These 2 bumps, the first one would be 40, that's actually 40. This would be 55 to 60. This one is set at 60. And then the second one is set at 130 for me, which is late. But you got to remember, this is an EQ for the bass guitar, and to get the highest string, if I don't do this, I can't hear that last string. I just can't. I've played with this again and again and again and again and again. Allman Brothers, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, a lot of stuff where I know the name of the bass guitarist so well, and I know the songs that I can kind of pick it up. That has to be elevated. That's 130 for the EX1000. Could be different for yours. Another thing to notice here would be this, and this is what's called a notch, and this is not just any notch. This is something that mixers and people that in the studio, and if there's someone on HeadFi, you can PM them and ask them if this is this dude full of shit. No, I'm not. This is called a psychoacoustic trick. It's the same thing that they do when they try to create space and sparkle in the upper registers by boosting up frequencies up around 10 or in that range. This notch is designed to separate what are 2 items, which is the bass guitar and the drums, that occupy the same frequencies at the exact same moment. And you're only going to hear one because your ears work like that. So you're not going to hear the drum and the bass at the same moment because they're playing at the same frequency. So to get a fake sense of separation between those 2 instruments, they put a notch. And I didn't know when I checked interactive frequency chart until what I had done here, because I was doing this by sweep. I was trying to figure out how can I get that last bass note sounding good and also not lose the kick drum in the beginning of the chain Fleetwood Mac Rumors, that Mick Fleetwood kick drum, dung, dung, dung. I was trying to find where this wasn't going to bother that, and then I found out where it was. Where it happens to be is 302. So this is exactly, by chance, the point where the fundamental range passes to the harmonic range. This is the key effective range, and this is the harmonic residue of the bass guitar. So right where I notched it is exactly where the two regions, according to interactive frequency chart, actually are separate. And I notched it there, and it's one of the smartest things I've ever done. The next part would be attack, which would give a kind of an impact to what would be your last setting, which would be, this would be my fourth bass guitar note right here, and to give it that full, that these two things are connected to each other seems kind of odd to people that are not familiar with EQ, but this sounds better when I raise 1K. So this is located at exactly 1K, and I read it and I thought, I used to, you know, sometimes do that, but not for bass. I didn't really lift 1K for bass, but there it is as an instruction if you want to do, you know, give it some fullness and impact without boomy, because you're beyond that range. Lift 1K, and this was a stunning revelation when I was focusing not on the overall sound of something, but I was focusing on the bass, and playing with 1K was instantly, if you're watching this video, 1K, lift that up a little bit, get it exactly at 1K and lift that up. We're talking about acoustic science, so it's not going to be, it's not really driver dependent. Lifting 1K on a driver that's playing music should give the bass sound an improved, it sounds more separated. It sounds like the end of the bass note, so dong, this upper, which would be the harmonic range. I pulled this string, bong, it's here. Now that that sound is the harmonic. Now that would come to here. Raising this gives this a final sound. Instead of dong, it's dong. Can you see what I'm saying? You get, I'm not crazy. Dong or dong. This is the harmonic extension of this bump. It's right here. And they call that the attack. Now the final elevation that I would give would be at 2.360. This could be 2.5, and this is called the notes, and this is for slap, pick, pluck noises. The pluck sound of the bass guitar, the pick sound, the finger sliding down the string, the hand tapping against the bass guitar. Raise that up on your, if you got EX1000s or anything that's got very, very good clarity, and note the difference that this makes. Following interactive frequency chart online, and just going by that, I thought, it just seemed too easy. You know, I've been doing this for so long. I'm from car audio, and I did stuff, and that depends on the size of the car and the size of the drive, and there's lots of variables, but IEMs are a little more controlled. They're inside my ear. So could it be this easy to EQ? Now keep in mind what my theory is, that less EQ is better, because you're getting further. You might as well be throwing DSPs because you're getting further and further away from the sound that I imagine you want, which is the original. There is nothing in the treble that is elevated, upper treble, because the EX1000s don't need that, but the 800s don't either. So I've got the bottom, I've got my driver specific adjustments right here, I've got a notch, very, 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 very real. I mean, if you've ever heard drivers that are not open in the back, but they do have very wide stage, it's because of this, because of a notch separates two things. Not exactly because of this, it's because they did something over here, but that is the psychoacoustic effect. This is the same thing. This is giving the impression that the bass guitar and the drums are not so close together. This is very essential, and it should always be narrower than your boost. Your boost should be wider than your notch. And if you got a 20 band parametric, it's going to set it at a standard, which would be, let's go for one that I'm not playing with. Let's get 0.385 is exactly what it's allowing me with 4 adjustments, and I'm not messing with that because this is with that many adjustments on that side. This is so that if I were to do the next one, I could do it and not interfere with the next one. So if I play with the BW, the bandwidth of this, I'm starting to go backwards. I'm starting to degrade the quality of sound. So I would not adjust this if you select the 20 band parametric and neutron. Leave it just like this is, unless you notch. Then you might want to make it narrower, because you don't want to. You really are trying to. You're notching. But when you're boosting, I would leave the BW exactly like this, and you can adjust the gain as you like it. So we're looking at EQ that was designed to elevate the bass guitar front and center, or left front. It comes in very clear. My mids are not affected at all. You would think that an adjustment or a notch at 300 would have a negative effect. It does not at all. It exists right exactly where fundamental and harmonics meet in the chart for the bass guitar. It's perfect. I did it by total coincidence, and when I saw that, it confirmed that this is the legit thing. And then when I did the attack and the notes boost, the 1 and the 2.5, it all became clear. Sounds absolutely fantastic. So EQing is not that difficult, but you want to keep it to a minimum. You know, what is your goal? Do you want to get better vocals? Man, that's hard, because you've got female and male, and depending on their, you've got alto, sopranos, you've got basses, you've got people with different. It's very, very, very difficult to EQ for vocals. The only thing that I want to do is have exactly what I'm listening to, and I want to have the bass sound clear and nice, good, clear pulls on the bass string, and boom, and Dr. Dre, Tupac, the Ghetto Boys, Kendrick Lamar now, these guys are all mixing in studios using bass guitars, and you don't even notice it until you EQ like this, and then you listen again, and what you thought was like a syncopatic or a computer generated bass notes is actually quite often samples, or they might even have a bassist inside there. So Tupac has never sounded better than he does right now, and it's because of this EQ. So how do you EQ? You do it like this. You raise the bottom. You've got 2 notches that are, I'd leave the BW exactly the way it's set, 0.385. These 2 notches are dependent on what your driver is. You notch, and then you've got your attack, and then you've got your notes, and that's it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With this one actually being related to that. This is the fully developed harmonic expansion of the highest or the last 2 notes of a bass guitar, and it sounds absolutely stunning. I highly recommend it. If you've got any questions, there's an interactive frequency chart online. Just type interactive frequency chart, and then you can hover your cursor over different instruments, and it'll tell you where the fundamental range is and where the harmonic range is, and how adjusting certain ones will give you good points and what the bad points might be too. So this is how I keep my EQ, and I use this for everything, for hip-hop. This as it is beautiful for Led Zeppelin, and that is so hard because the Led Zeppelin masters are not that great, not the originals, but this sounds really, really good. And if I want to listen to Tupac, I raise this one. Want to listen to Kendrick Lamar, I raise only that one. And sometimes these other adjustments for the bass, these are for the driver itself. This is the notch to separate it, and these 2 points are these are the harmonics of a bass guitar, so they're not variable depending on the genre or the track. They're pretty much applicable to everything, so that would be a recommended good EQ point for you guys to start with. Okay, and there's my EQ instruction video.